Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, Chairman of the Arctic Circle Assembly, Ólafur Ragnar Grímsson, former President of Iceland. Welcome to Iceland, all of you. Welcome to my hometown, Reykjavik. And it's great to be back here at the Arctic Circle. And as usual, Ólafur Ragnar Grímsson, our former president, has organized a very impressive event. Allow me also to acknowledge the presence of the Crown Prince of Norway, Canada's Governor General, President of Estonia, and the Prime Minister of Greenland. You're most welcome to Iceland, all of you distinguished guests traveling from near and far. We are going to talk about the Arctic in the next few days. And as we all know here in this room, the Arctic continues to develop at a tremendous pace. On the positive side, we see expanding scientific networks, greater knowledge with both the public and businesses, and growing skills. There is more investment in green technology, and we are witnessing various green solutions emerging, not least because of the important dialogue around the Arctic between different actors. And all this is a testament of the broad political determination to both protect the Arctic and also make use of the opportunities that lie ahead. However, the challenges are maybe greater than ever. And in few decades, the Arctic may become unrecognizable if we do not act sufficiently today. Everything is changing. We see more extreme weathers around the globe. Only in the last 2 weeks, we had such an extreme storm in the eastern part of Iceland that hundreds of trees were ripped up by their roots just in few hours. We see glaciers receding around the Arctic, permafrost is melting, heat records are beaten, forests are burning. And when we put it in the context of the fact that the Arctic preserves an exceptionally sensitive ecosystem, but also has a lot of great resources, we can see that the challenges are great. It's not an easy combination to tackle. We see big business, big countries showing more and more interest in the Arctic, not least because of all those rich resources. And for the politicians, the decisions can be quite difficult. Should all these resources be harnessed? I will say this here. I applaud the decision of the government of Greenland not to drill for oil. And my government has also declared that we will not issue licenses for oil exploration in Iceland's exclusive economic zone. This will be put into legislation. And these are very important decisions because we need to make that change, and we need to accelerate that change, going from the carbon-dependent economy over to the green economy. Once again, I want to underline that what happens in the Arctic is a concern for all of us, not just those of us who live around the Arctic, because the effects are global and will have consequences for all human beings. But we need to remember that the effects are more serious for those of us who live around the Arctic. And the livelihood of the people living around the Arctic depends on this fragile ecosystem, and it's essential that we can build a sustainable economy in the Arctic region. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are living in times where one crisis comes after the other. Actually, it was only a day after that we lifted the COVID restrictions here in Iceland that Russia invaded Ukraine. And this illegal and unprovoked war is the biggest threat to European security since World War II. At stake is international law and the rules-based international order as we know it, and the fundamental principles upon which all states, not least small states like Iceland, base their very existence. And our region is directly affected as the aggressor is an important player in the Arctic with legitimate interests. But Russia's illegitimate actions made it impossible for us not to respond, and the Arctic Council hasn't really been functioning since this horrific invasion. From day one, Iceland condemned the aggression in the strongest possible way, and we have solidly supported Ukraine and will continue to do so with our friends. Next month, Iceland will be taking over the chair of the Council of Europe, and we assume chairmanship in testing times as the war in Ukraine is challenging the very foundation of the Council of Europe, the principles of democracy, human rights, and the rule of law. And this adds to other concerning trends, such as democratic backsliding and the alarming backlash in the fight for gender equality. Ensuring accountability for the atrocities committed in Ukraine will be a prominent part of the agenda during Iceland's chairmanship. And next year, it is also Iceland's turn to chair the Nordic Council of Ministers. And there we intend to continue to further the vision for 2030 of the Nordic region as the most sustainable and integrated region in the world, and emphasize the crucial importance of peace for all progress. Because progress stops when we are in war. And that is a fact that is so clearly visible for us in those days. Under Iceland's chairmanship, our focus will obviously move towards Northwest, where cooperation with our neighbors and friends in the Faroe Islands and in Greenland remains key. And cooperation in West Northern is steadfastly growing. Earlier this year, I went on a successful state visit to Greenland, and I am happy to tell you that today, at 12 o'clock, I and Prime Minister Muti Beegde signed a declaration of cooperation between Greenland and Iceland, charting the way for even closer collaboration between our countries in many important fields. Dear friends, in all this turbulence, Iceland's Arctic policy remains clear. We advocate peaceful, sustainable development for the benefit of the people of the Arctic. We do not want remilitarization of the Arctic or an Arctic arms race, but we are also fully aware of the need for robust situational awareness in our region and the need to counter hybrid threats that can hit without notice. The recent serious attacks on the Nord Stream pipelines in the Baltic Sea remind us that infrastructure on the ground and in the sea needs constant common safeguarding. And same is true for our cybersecurity, same is true for our democratic resilience. And here I would also like to acknowledge the new US Arctic strategy. Clear and transparent policies, together with strong international structures, are central to well-functioning Arctic diplomacy. Last year, I announced Iceland's government's plans to support the establishment of the private non-profit foundation, the Grímsson Center, creating a permanent home for the Arctic Circle and cementing Iceland's commitment to offer leadership on Arctic issues, sustainability, and climate change. And there is no doubt that the center will prove to be of great value to international cooperation, innovation, and research on the Arctic. Allow me to conclude by saying how highly I appreciate the work of all of you, our wide-ranging cooperation, and the numerous ideas and initiatives that originate during Arctic Circle for the benefit of the Arctic region. We are going through a multi-crisis, triggered by the war in Ukraine, causing serious energy shortages, strong inflationary pressures, the risk of global economic slowdown, and an imminent food crisis affecting tens of millions around the world, mostly the poorest of the poor. Inequalities and uncertainties are causing political instability and sometimes strengthening autocratic tendencies. And all of this affects the Arctic region as well. We have truly come a long way since the Arctic Circle first started. We have shown that we truly can make a difference. I remember sitting here when François Hollande was preparing the Paris meeting where the Paris Agreement was signed, and he gave a speech here in this room, and we were all filled with the optimism that came out of the Paris Agreement. The challenges remain huge, but being here in this room, I personally have actually experienced that ideas may actually appear here and then turn into reality for the greater benefit of the Arctic and the whole world. I think when we all come together on different levels, with different backgrounds, we can actually make that important difference to maintain peace and stability in the Arctic, which is the foundation to everything else. So, dear friends, I wish you productive days in Reykjavik. Thank you for your attention, and let's do some great things for the Arctic. Thank you.